Hey guys, it's Mr. Jackson, and I'm going to be showing you the first few steps that you're going to take to get your instrument out of the case, get it set up properly, and then so you can play the first few notes on your instrument. So first step is taking the instrument out of the case, which is a little bit more, there's more involved than you might think, just because you want to make sure you do things safely. Like we have mentioned in the past, the cello cases are soft fabric. If you see, they're squishy. They don't protect things from being bent or being dropped, so you still have to take very good care of them even though they're in a case. So yours won't have a bow in the case, but this one does, so I'm going to take the bow out. You have to make sure that you do not have a bow in the case when you take the instrument out, because it could break the bow. So, your case will most likely have a zipper that goes up over the top, but you'll probably have another zipper. If I slide this back, maybe you can see this a little bit better. You'll probably have another zipper that goes on this side that zips down a little bit further, and where it'll allow the instrument to just lay open like that. Let me tilt the camera a little bit better so you can see that. So it'll allow the instrument to just lay open inside the case. So at this point, you want to put two hands on the cello, one here in the neck, scoot back, and one on the lower bout, and you want to lift and you want to slide it out, because you'll have to take it out where the scroll is. The scroll is still covered up by a little bit of the zipper. Take it out. Set it down on its ribs like this. You don't want to set it down this way, and you definitely never ever want to lay it down on the bridge here, because that could bend it, that could move it, or that could break it. So we're going to set this down very carefully on the ribs there. Take this, set it aside. We don't need it right now. Okay. Again, we don't have our bows right now. We'll deal with bows later. So the next step is figuring out how long the end pin has to be for you. Now this is a very personal thing. It depends on a lot of things. Your height, the height of your upper body, your lower body, the height of your chair. So many things can change where your end pin needs to be. But if you, just to get us started, what you'll do is you'll take one fist, and the other hand, you'll take your pinky and your thumb and poke it out. That distance from here to here, that far out with the end pin. So so you're going to leave it on the floor. And there we go. You can kind of see the edge of the cart there. Try to move it to where you can see a little bit better. Okay, so there is a little turn screw that holds the end pin in place. Hopefully you can see that. You don't have to unscrew it over and over and over again. All you have to do is just give it a little half turn and it's loose. Okay? At that point you can take the end pin. Some of them have a rubber stop on them. Some of them are just pointy, so just be careful. So you want to take this out. Actually, no, I changed my mind. Why don't you take it out this distance? That's as far as you want to take it out in the beginning, just to see how far you need to go. Okay, so I'm going to take it out some. I'm going to check it with my fingers. That's just about right. I know you can't see the end of it, but that's just about right. Now it will continue to move unless you take this little adjustment screw, tighten it back up. You know, you don't have to tighten it with a wrench, but make sure it's not going to go anywhere. Okay? At this point, you're going to take the instrument from the neck and the lower bout, and you're just going to pick it up and stand it up in front of you on the end pin. Now comes the process of figuring out how close that estimate is to what you need, okay? So what you want to do is you're going to take the instrument and you're just going to hold the neck right here with your hand. So I want you to get to where you can make the end pin straight out. If the end pin is straight down, that your hand is able to hold this without going up. You see how my shoulder is sloping up? We want our shoulder to be about here. So I'm going to carefully hold on my cello nice and firmly so I know I'm not going to drop it. Take my right hand while I'm carefully holding it in place. Make sure you're holding it in place. Unscrew slightly the adjustment screw and slide it down just a little bit. Then I'm going to tighten it again. I'll test it out again. Make it to where it's pointing straight down. Let's see. I'm closer, but it still could be a little bit lower. So I'm going to lower it down just a little bit more. Again, you do not want to slam this down. That could be very, very bad for this part of the cello. So straight out. All right, that's just about where we want it. My arm is maybe slightly going up, but it's not way up here, and we definitely don't want it out here. So you want to make a square with your body, your knees, your arm, and the cello. If you're doing something like that, that's obviously going to get you weird results. So you want to make sure that the cello is straight up and down. You know, open up Zoom. You can use your webcam to check on these angles, okay? Now, make sure your feet are below your knees. You don't want your legs tucked back like that or here, or particularly wide. You just want it about the width of the legs on a regular chair, okay? So now with your cello, I want you to place it in front of you to where it's square. And I just want you to lean it in to where the cello knocks you or touches the left side of your head, okay? Now, if you look at me from straight on, we've talked about this before. You sit straight up and down, and the cello will fit you. Do not adjust to where the cello wants you to go. You're the boss. So we're going to set the end pin here, and I'm going to sit up. Lost my pencil. I'm going to sit up nice and tall, and the cello is going to be held by my left knee and my right knee, not held tight, but just cradled in place, and it's going to touch me right here on the chest. It does not touch my shoulder. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's hovering over the shoulder. That's very, very important. It should kind of go by your left ear, about that height. Okay? Now mine, if you look at this angle, the peg is just about in my ear, so we want it behind my ear. It needs to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to again carefully raise the cello. Place it in place, my left knee, my right knee, and my chest. Now this is about where it needs to be. I'm not sure if you can see that, but the cello, it's right about behind my ear. Everything's in front of me. I can now work correctly with this, okay? So, it is very, very important that every time you take your cello out of the case to play, that when you extend your end pin, it is exactly the same length every single time, so that whenever you go to play, we start doing things like this. You don't one day play like this and the other day play like this and the other day play like that. It has to be consistent. So before we actually play, I want you to take a moment, now that it's in the right place, and you can pause this video until you think you got it. Lay your cello down again on the ribs, on the sides, and figure out what distance is this. So it looks like, for me, I mean, you can just estimate it. If you want to be intense and get a ruler, feel free. You can mark the end pin, but those will very often rub off, especially if they're metal. So you may not want to do that. So what mine is like this. I just tuck in my thumb. My thumb doesn't take into consideration that. That's how far it is for me. You find a way to measure it so that it's exactly the same every time. All right, so now that we're sure that our end pin is at the right height, start by making sure that everything's in the right position. Left knee, right knee, chest, not your shoulder, okay? If it touches the side of your head, that's fine, but we're not going to let the cello push us around. We sit normal, and the cello is going to be at a slight angle this way. All right, so now with your left hand, you can just let it do nothing. right hand, and remember, I am not a mirror image of you, so this, if you're looking at this, this is your left hand on this side, this is your right hand. So my right hand is this. Imagine that. So with my right hand, I am going to bring my thumb over to the side of the fingerboard and point my thumb towards my belly button. Here for a moment, I'll bring the camera closer so you can see that. So take my thumb, point it towards my belly button. I'm going to place my thumb right here on the side of the fingerboard. You'll have a little sticker right here. That's what it's for. It's a target. Here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see your thumb behind the fingerboard because you could pull the fingerboard off. It's only glued on. It's not screwed on. And also, you're going to have a difficult time playing with good position this way. So thumb on the side. And notice the rest of my fingers are in kind of a fist. Not tight, but they're just closed in. Once you have that, poke your first finger out. And that is what plays all of the strings on the cello. Okay? Why don't we want it down here? Well, down here we get a thinner kind of tinny sound, as opposed to this. So listen to. You hear the difference. That's why we want it up here a little bit. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about these strings. So again, I am not a mirror image of you. So if you were a mirror image, if I was a mirror image of you, your scroll would be pointing over here on the left side of you. This would be your right hand, this would be your left hand. You would have your right hand on the side of the fingerboard. So if you're looking at me like a mirror image, good. So your left hand on this side, your right hand on this side is here, okay? Now, I feel very weird because I am backwards, so I'm going to put it back where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to take it and put my right hand over here on the side of the fingerboard. Now let's talk about the names of these strings. We're going to start with the string that's farthest away from your finger. This is called A. Okay, and how we pluck it is, again, not down here, but up here with your thumb on the side of the fingerboard. It's anchored, act like it's glued on. It can't come off. You're just going to pull the string, and then until it goes loose. Now, you do not have to pull it so hard. Just pull it and kind of let it slide past your finger. Just pluck. Okay? So that's A. Alright? Now, I'm going to go one string closer to my thumb. This is D, the same D note that we've been practicing on the staff. Like the 5 lines of the staff, that's the middle line. D. Ready, pluck the D string 4 times. Ready, go. Now, feel weird looking at just the cello. Now, go one step closer to your thumb. Second to last string over here is the G string. Ready, ready, go. 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last string right next to your thumb is called C. Let's play that 4 times. Ready, set, and go. C. Alright, so to review. A, D, notice how my arm changes. G, my thumb never leaves the side. C. Alright, now let's talk a little bit more about the right hand. If you notice, your thumb, I've talked about that, your thumb needs to be pointed back at your belly button. And if you're doing that, it's kind of like you're looking at the back of your hand. That is correct. If you find yourself pointing your fingers back up, that's going to cause some issues whenever we start using the bow and your hand has to be in this shape. So make sure your hand is kind of in this arrangement where your hand is pointed back at you, the back of your hand, so that we can practice for the bow. Okay? So, now let's practice an equally important part of the cello practice session. Equally important as getting the instrument out of the case is getting the instrument back in the case. So give me a moment to arrange everything to where you can see. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. Anytime you need to stop playing, if it's more than 30 seconds, or like anytime you need to step away from it, if it's more than 30 seconds, you need to put it back in the case. Okay, but let's say you're going to set something down and go pick up something across your room or something like that. That's fine. But a very important rule about that. If the instrument is on the ground, the end pin has to be in. Why? If you see this on the ground, this is just waiting for somebody to kick and knock over and break something on here. So lay the cello down, put the end pin in, go get something or whatever, and come right back. If it's more than 30 seconds, you got to put it in the case because you know accidents can happen. And even though the case doesn't protect it from everything, it does protect it from quite a few things. So when we're ready to put the instrument back in the case, let me tilt this down and push it back. We start by putting the end pin back in. So just a little half turn so that this comes loose. Pull it all the way in. You already remember how long it's supposed to be for you. Turn that until it's not, nice and tight and it's not going to fall out. Then set this aside for a moment. Bring the case back and you want to lay it on the ground open. Open like this, okay? Now the scroll goes in this part right here, but it doesn't open all the way. Most cases don't open all the way. So you're going to take the cello and you're going to slide it where the scroll goes in there. You're going to have to bring it like that. So one hand firmly holding the neck or the upper bout, the other hand holding the lower bout. Bring it in, and I'm going to make sure that all the pegs don't get caught on anything. And then I set it on this flat part. If you'll look here. The case has a flat part right down here. Make sure the ribs sit right on that. And at that point, it's just putting the coat on, so to speak. Now, here's something to look out for. You notice the bridge is on this side. You have the long case for the bow on that same side. If you find yourself putting the instrument in the case and you're putting the bridge on the side that doesn't have this, it's backwards, it needs to be reversed, okay? But zip it all around and let it stop at the end pin to where the end pin is poking out. Then take the other zipper that's on the underside. And again, let the end pin poke out like this. Let the end pin poke out, because if you zip it up all the way, let's say I just zip it up over that end pin, the end pin is still in there. You set it down, it's going to damage the zippers in there, and it's going to cause it to stick and then not work anymore. So I'm going to put that here, let the end pin poke out. But you want both of these zippers right up against that. That way you know it's not going to slip out. Okay? When you store your cello, just like if it's outside of the case, when it's inside the case, you don't want it laying on the bridge ever. So you have a few options. Number one, you can either set it on its side away from little brothers, little sisters, and nowhere in walkways. Actually, that's the only place. The only place you need to put it is on the side away from other people. Okay? Because accidents happen. Little brothers and little sisters get really excited. They want to try out the new shiny cello. And you can say, nope, it's just for me. Alright? So, repeat this video as many times as you need to. And this is the basics of how to get the instrument out and back in the case and proper setup.